Hi everyone, so here we go for that lesson about the perfect infinitive, which is a tense you learn at GCSE, and it's one of those you really want to have if you're sitting a higher paper, because it's supposed to be, well, it's considered to be one of the complex tenses. It doesn't necessarily mean it's very difficult to form or to use, it just means that it's considered to be one of those fancy ones that will always make a good impression if you use it in a writing or in a speaking. So, when do you use it and how do you form it? We're going to see all of that now. So, you use this tense when you want to say after having done something or after doing. I prefer to stick to that translation because you will see that when we translate that in French, there's an equivalent for each part. So most of the time in that video, I will use that kind of translation rather than this one. And if I'm very accurate in the translation and in the grammar, the perfect infinitive, it's only that of having done. But I will always use it after, sorry. I will always use it after this word because it allows you to have a bit more context and to know when and how to use it rather than having a tense and having no clue when or how to use it. So, after having done, that's the translation I'll use. It's a perfect tense, so let's go, well, even if it's called perfect infinitive. So let's go back one sec to the normal perfect tense, the basic one that you have seen since year 8 or 7. I have watched will be translated in I, je, j'ai will be I have, and regarder will be watched. Now, that part here that we call the past participle, it's the common part to any perfect tense you will ever learn because like I said before, there's quite a few. So you know that if you hear perfect something, that past participle will be part of it. And the title tells you perfect infinitive, so you can expect an infinitive in the formation of that tense. So let's look at after having watched. If I take after having watched, well, after is the word après in French. Watched, you don't change it from your normal basic perfect tense. I have to stop saying normal. And that's your infinitive right here in French. Avoir, it's the infinitive to have, which here stands for having. And suddenly you've got the full explanation, at least, of why it is called the perfect infinitive. Perfect infinitive here, okay? So let's look at a bit more detail at how you form it. So after, we've already established that this is après. Then you have your infinitive avoir. Then you have your past participle, which all of those three things combined will form the perfect infinitive. Let's look at the rule more clearly. So that's your word for after, après. I already said you use your infinitive avoir. So far you have after having. And then, to form your past participle, hopefully you remember the rule for the regular verbs in the basic perfect tense. That is still the same, that doesn't change. So if you have an ER verb, for example like jouer, take off the ER, put an E accent, and you're sorted. After having played. That you can also translate by after playing. But once again, if you look now side by side, there's exactly the same number of words. So that's why I prefer it. So after having played, après avoir joué. If you have an IR verb like finir, take off the IR, put an I instead, après avoir fini, after having finished. And if you have the verb to wait, attendre, and you want to say after having waited, well, take off the RE, put a U, which I have done here, après avoir attendu. Hopefully, I'm going fairly quickly on that, just because this rule should be known by now. If you're not fully confident with your perfect tense and all its exceptions, by all means, watch the videos about the perfect part 1, 2, and 3, because all the exceptions that you have in the perfect tense, all the irregularities, you can transfer them to this tense, which is exactly what I'm going to do right now. So, first exception, we saw that this is the normal rule, but if we go back to the irregular verbs in the perfect tense, and you know that's only a few, there's quite a few more, but those verbs here have an irregular past participle. So that means, once again, you don't follow that rule. You need to learn that, for example, the past participle for prendre is pris. So the first exception to that rule is if you have a verb with an irregular past participle. Like I said, for prendre, you can't say après avoir, take off the RE and put the U, that doesn't work. Après avoir prendu, wrong. Après avoir pris, because we have seen before, that was part 2, the video part 2, we have seen before that pris is the irregular past participle for prendre. Second case of exception, if I can phrase it like that, it's the Van der Trump verbs. So once again, we have seen that we have a list of 16 irregular verbs, and I told you which one to prioritize if you're getting started. Rester, aller, partir, arriver, and sortir. They are the most common ones. For those verbs in the perfect infinitive, well, like in the perfect, when you don't use avoir but être, so to be instead of to have, follow me, if you have a Van der Trump verb, the only thing you need to do is swap this for this. So you don't say after having gone in French, you say after being gone. However, I will still translate it with having, because that's, I hope, that's the English way and I'm not messing up with that. But once again, if your verb is a Van der Trump, swap that infinitive, don't put avoir, put être, because it's a Van der Trump. And like in the perfect tense, the past participle here needs to agree with the subject, the person who is doing the action. However, if you have that, after having gone, we have no idea who is doing the action of going. So you need a full sentence to determine who is doing the action. If I say, after having gone to the cinema, he decided to revise, well, it's a he after, so he went to the cinema, so I keep it without the E. If I want to say, after having gone to the cinema, she went to the restaurant, well, it's a girl if it's a she, so you take off those brackets here and you put the E right after at the end of your past participle. So, once again, if you're not fully confident with your perfect tense, go back to the 3 videos, because all the exceptions that you have in the perfect will be found not only in the perfect infinitive, but in any perfect tense. However, I hope that makes sense. Now, I'm going to put an exercise under the visualizer. If you only want to get started, apply that rule with the first half of the exercise. If you want to go full on and try even the irregulars, you'll see there's a little extension at the end. But once again, take it at your own pace. You don't have to get it all right from the start. So, the exercise. Like I said, these are all regulars, no tricks here. They follow that pattern. So, if you want, once again, to take it easy, just do those, and I'm going to do the first one with you. And if you want to challenge yourself a bit more, or if you want to come back to that video later, try this set of irregular and Van der Trump verbs. That's the 6th last one. Now, I've been a bit mean. I've put them all in a different order, so don't assume that this is all, let's say, irregular, and this is all Van der Trump. I mix it up. Just to annoy you a bit, sorry. So if you have the verb faire, go back in your notes about the perfect tense, figure out if this belongs in the list of irregulars or Van der Trump. Same for arriver. Is it a Van der Trump or is it an irregular? So you will have to figure that out for yourself, but for now I'm going to do the first one. After having built, after, après. Having, it's my infinitive, it's avoir. And then bâtir is an IR verb. Take off the IR and put the right ending, which is an I. Pause the video, take a few minutes, oopsie, take a few minutes to do that, and I'll mark in 5 seconds. Here we go, after having revised. So, après, then you put your infinitive avoir, take off the ER, and put an E accent. After having chosen après, for after, my infinitive avoir, chosen, take off the IR, careful it's an IR verb, so you put an I instead. After having sold, après, avoir, sold is an RE verb, take off the RE, put a U instead. After having eaten, après, avoir, manger with an E accent because it was an IR verb. After having succeeded, take off the IR, put a I instead. After having lost, après avoir, take off the RE, put a U, and that's for the regular ones. Then, this is an irregular one, so it will start the same, after having, no tricks here, but this has an irregular past participle which is fait, après avoir fait. Arriver is a Van der Trump. Now that gets a bit more tricky in my opinion. Après, you can't put avoir if it's a Van der Trump, you need to put être. However, the rest is the same. Take off the ER, put an E accent. If you're talking about a girl, put a E. After going out, that's also a Van der Trump. So, après, still être if it's a Van der Trump. Sorti, take off the IR, put a I. And once again, if it's a girl, put an E. I didn't mention it, but if it's a group of people, you can even put an S at the end. Well, it's not that you can, it's that you have if it's plural. After having read, that's an irregular. So, après, avoir, because it's irregular, but it's not a Van der Trump. And the past participle is lu. And there's zero agreement after avoir. After having seen, après avoir vu, that's this part, which is irregular, not the rest. And the last one, after going down, that's Van der Trump. So après, être, I can't use avoir with a Van der Trump. Then take off the RE, put a U instead, and agree with the person doing the action. I hope that was clear. I'm just going to give you a quick sentence so that you can have an idea about how to use it. For example, after having revised the perfect infinitive, I relaxed. Après avoir, or I watched TV, that would be easier. Après avoir révisé l'infinitif passé, comma, j'ai regardé la télé. And after that, you can use the perfect tense, and that gives you a wonderful sentence that you can still extend even longer, but that gives you a really nice sentence to make an impression. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and that will be useful in the future. See you later.